Good afternoon and welcome to CAD-1's presentation of the new features in the newly released Revit 2015 R2, and you can see our little friend down there in the corner, version of Revit. First off, let me ask, can people hear us? That's why we were a little late getting started, because we're having.
Rick,
can you hit the mic or hit the?
Yeah, they're raising their hand.
Raise your hand. Good.
All right.
We're in a different room. Yeah, we're in a different room here because we've got 4 of us presenting today, and we wanted to make sure we had plenty of room. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulty there. So we're good. All right, so this is going to be kind of fun. We all kind of got surprised by this new release a little bit, and yet there's a lot of good things in there. The R2 is a subscription benefit, so it's available to those who are on subscription, on current subscription. It can be downloaded. It is available now. It came available about 2 weeks ago, but it took us a little while to make sure we knew all the new features at least well enough to show them to you. So with that, I'm going to introduce our presenters today. You all know my voice, I think, Stan Henne, and I'm the Business Development Manager, but I'm not all that important to this thing.
Oh, don't say that, Stan.
Oh, poor me.
Yeah.
We have Barbara Thompson. Are you AIA?
Yes.
Barbara Thompson, AIA and registered architect, and our newest instructor here at CAD-1 with Revit and AutoCAD, and we're very pleased to have Barbara on our team now. We have Brian DeJuge, RA, AIA, and Log Home Master.
Log Home Master.
And he will be joining us, and then Tony Crawford, BSME.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And we could go into all sorts of meanings for that one.
Yeah.
So
anyway, Tony.
With that, we'll try and have a little fun, obviously, here this afternoon, but we'll try and get the new features of this out to you. So with that, Barbara, are you ready? I'm going to turn it over to you to start the slides and talk a little bit about the architectural features.
Okay, well, hello, everyone. And so as Stan was saying, the new release here, the mid-year release, has a lot of enhancements in Revit 2015.
Barbara, real quick, I was just informed by Brian DeJuge that we have some poll questions. So do we want to bring?
No, not poll questions. I apologize.
Oh, I see.
I'm just saying that as we're going along, people might want to ask questions. And so
there we go.
I want to make that point. Now our questions are going to be focused mainly on the R2 release updates or anything that pertains to that. That's kind of where our focus is going to be. But we would love to, have those questions and kind of have some interaction with you guys. So that's all I was coming at, was just having those in here. We didn't actually make a poll yet.
Okay, well that's fine. My bad.
I didn't get that far yet.
It's like I've never done a webinar before.
You switch rooms and you forget everything.
I know, it's awful.
I decided to change it up on you today, Stan.
Anyway, so Barbara, back to you and a calmer, more peaceful personality.
Yeah. Well, for now anyway. And so I am going to go through some of the platform enhancements. So most of what's going on in the new release are enhancements on features that you're probably already familiar with. And so I'm going to look at some of those, and then some of the architectural features that they have brought up. Now I think one of my slides seems to be a little out of order here. So this is some of the structural stuff on the reveal constraints and the thin lines. And so a lot of what the enhancements are improving your performance to hopefully increase your productivity using Revit. And there we go. Okay, so we have, we're going to cover some of the highlights here. We grouped them according to, we're doing the platform and architectural, then also the structural enhancements, and then the mechanical enhancements as well.
And real quick, while we've got it here, Marta asks, why R2? What happened basically, it's not a panic. It's not that 2015 was so bad that they needed to come out with a second release. It really is kind of a preview of the changes at Autodesk. In the next year, 2015, Autodesk for some reason calls it 2016, but the rest of us live in 2015. Autodesk will be doing away with upgrade software. You won't be able to use your older software. You'll be able to use your older software, but you won't be able to upgrade it. And in order to stay current, you will need to be on a current subscription. So what you're going to see is this kind of, I don't know if it's going to be a stream or what, but new features being released to users on a periodic basis. And I think this is, or I know this is a preview of how Autodesk will handle that, where every so often, and I don't really know what that means at this point, but every so often Autodesk will release a new feature set that will be available to subscribers that they can download. So it's not a catastrophe that happened here, Marta. It's just how they're going to do things in the future.
And part of this that we're seeing in here is that it wasn't so much that it was fixing a lot of things or that are out there, but actually offering a lot of little new features. So this was actually a pretty good mid-year release on the software that you're going to see in here. Now, as you're going to witness, there wasn't like a huge change or one big thing that changed. There's a lot of little stuff that came across as changes. And part of that thing that you're going to see is when you go to download that, you're actually going to it's going to reinstall Revit or kind of re-update the Revit on your machine. So it isn't like it's just a normal release. It's going to kind of run an execution file and kind of reload itself on your machine again. It's going to take a little bit of time to get this R2 release carried over. It's not just a real small release that we've had like in the past.
And it does include, I noticed it does include the service pack or update release, is it 4 I think? 3 or 4?
4 is in there, yeah.
It's included as part of it. If anybody was in the Revit, was it Sundial? I forget. There's like a semi-public beta that you can participate in. A lot of these features were in that beta and were tested there and then released a couple weeks ago as part of Revit for everyone on subscription.
Right. And take a look at the Sundial features if you haven't already. Sorry, Barbara, we just kind of updated you.
Hey, no problem. We got to talk up the beginning here.
We do have another question from Jesse, and I think it's a very good question, and I don't know if now's the right time, but sure, let's go ahead and ask it. It's kind of a backwards compatibility issue, really. If you install R2, will someone with regular 2015 be able to open the file, or will they need to upgrade as well? So, you know, it's kind of a halfway backwards compatibility. Do any of you guys know at this point? Mr. Brian D. Juge.
Yeah, actually, it is backwards compatible. It is a version 15. It's not that you're going to be sunk and you have to be on R2, you have to go to the Droid route or anything of that nature. These are going to be backwards compatible if you were. It's the same version, really.
It's the same file format. It's still Revit 2015. Yeah. No change in the file format.
Because there's some of those people that aren't going to be on subscription, and they're not going to be able to upgrade to R2. But yeah, it'll work across both regular and Droid.
Well, that's really good to know, because that could be a minor catastrophe there if it worked. Okay, good enough. Barbara, let's let you go ahead here.
Okay, so here's a list of what we have on the enhancements in the R2 release. And so we'll hit on a lot of these topics. I've kind of highlighted the ones that I'm going to, getting a little echo here. Huh?
Thank you.
I highlighted the ones that I'm actually going to focus on. And then Brian and Tony will fill in on some of the others. And so if there's anything here that you see, you want to ask questions about, if we miss it, then be sure to chime in and ask a question. And so the first thing that I want to look at are the IFC references, and now I'm going to have to, so IFC references and phases, they've made in some enhancements to those, working in perspective views, and then also the PDF export enhancements are my topics today. So I am going to just briefly look at each of these, and then I'll open Revit up and just do a quick demo on these different features. And so the IFC references, you can now, when you have an industry foundation class file that you have referenced into your project, before you were not able to host a lot of objects to it. And so they have improved that. You could still host some objects, some of the face-based objects that you find, or if you have created, you can now host those on IFC geometry. And then also when you do attach these references, they use a default phase. So rather than just placing it on your current phase, you could choose the phase that you actually would like those to be referenced into. And so this, again, is to help improve your collaboration between people who aren't using the Revit that you are using.
Now, Barbara, do you happen to know yet? I know none of you have had a chance to play with this or kind of learn what's going to come and go on this, but have any of you, do you know with this IFC format, how will, if you host a feature to, or maybe not be using the right term, but host something to an IFC, how is that going to carry over to a regular Revit, a native Revit file? Do any of you know at this point?
Well, so if you have a Revit project and you have linked in maybe someone else, if you have a consultant who's using IFC format because they have a different software that they are working in, then that will bring the linked objects that you're using.
Okay.
Right. So.
Okay.
And so for those of you that use a lot of the IFC references or work with others, then that's a good feature.
Would it be okay to ask a quick question? How many people online are using the IFC format with any regularity?
Just hit the raise your hand button.
Yeah, if you've used it more than once or more than one project.
So there's
a
small number of you that are, and it is growing in importance as we get more into cross-discipline collaboration.
Okay, thank you.
So about 6 people out there, actually. It's a pretty good number, actually.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so then the next feature that I'll be looking at are the improvements that they made in the PDF exports. And so what these are is now that when you export your file, your Revit project, to a PDF, when you'll choose a list of the views that you'd like to transfer to a PDF, and you'll get a table with like a table of contents that you can also click on just one item in the table, and then it will switch to that view or sheet. And then between your views, we'll be able to actually click on the references to other views and switch to those views. And so this is an example of the table of contents that comes up. And so this particular project, I plotted all to one file, a PDF. So you have a choice if you'd like to plot to separate PDFs or all to one. And so these I've done, the first example is all of them plotted into one PDF. And so as we bring up the table of content, and then if you click on something in the table of contents, then it would switch to that other view. And so, oops, I'm going to go back to that other slide here. And then also, then when I click on one of these elevation or the level markers, it's going to switch to that view or sheet. And then the final thing that I'll go through are some enhancements in working in perspective. And so now, typically, before this release, you really couldn't do a lot in perspective. You could show your drawing in perspective view, but then to actually work and do anything to the model, you'd have to switch back to another either orthographic view. And so we have, we have more capability anyway. You can align things in a perspective view now. We can use the move command, and then also pin and unpin elements. And then we also have the ability to toggle between views is now using your view cube up here. We just can click on the view cube to switch between parallel and perspective views. And then the reset target tool. So this is after if you've set up usually an interior perspective, and then if you manipulate it at all, you can reset the center of that. And so I'm going to switch, and unfortunately I didn't open my Revit yet.
Okay, well while your Revit's firing up there, we have a question from Mariah that asks, you know, is this done within the PDF file? In other words, are those things that you were showing, are they done within the PDF file, or are they done externally and then put into the PDF file, basically?
Yes, they are done when you export it to the PDF. So now you're working in your PDF, or if you've sent it to someone else, then they will have the ability to transfer between the views of the drawing within the PDF.
So Revit sets that up for you.
Yes. And the other option I didn't actually demonstrate, but so you could print them all at the same time into one PDF, or you can, if you separate them into separate PDFs, then when you click on those links, it will actually open the other PDF file that it's referenced to.
Okay, so there we are.
And so here first is an IFC project. So I've got a Revit project, and then I linked in, so if you see in the properties here that this is an IFC file. And let's see if I have my anything loaded here. But so I'm going to insert a component, and so I found this. It's a loudspeaker is what this one is. And so now I'm able to come in, and as you can see, you used to get the little arrow, the little circle with the slash through it, indicating that you couldn't pick anything on that IFC object before. And so now I can come in and place a loudspeaker on the side of my building. They got a couple of other electrical items that I brought in, but and so that's the way that works. And so maybe not with all IFC. So what it says is some IFC references, and so you kind of have to search to find those that actually work. But they do have to be face-based, so it will not embed anything in walls or any of the geometry. So they will attach to faces in your IFC files.
Well, I think it's a good move forward. I think this will probably progress over the next few feature updates that they do.
And so let's see, I think I'm going to jump to the PDF one, because I'm going to use that same file then to just give an example of the perspective view enhancements. So I'm opening this project here, and I'm going to just export some different views to PDF, and then open that up and just demonstrate how that works with the PDF enhancements. I've just got a Revit project here, so I'm going to go to File, Export. Actually, I need to print, I'm sorry. I just need to go to, it's going back to IFC. So I'm going to print this to a PDF now. So if we have a Bluebeam PDF loaded in here. And then what we want to do is choose selected views and sheets. And then we can save this. If you are always using the same set of views and sheets, then you can actually save this and use it again. And so I'm going to just pick out a few that I know will have references to other drawings.
Now basically, Barbara, what you're doing is you're picking out the things that you want to have exported isn't the right word, but printed to this Bluebeam PDF. So
correct.
You're picking the Revit elements that you want to move to the PDF. And if everybody will, just remember that our folks have spent the past 2 weeks trying to learn this between teaching classes and helping folks on the phone and everything. So we'll be pretty good with it pretty soon, but we're learning a little bit still ourselves here.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Setting up for webinars.
Exactly.
I know I ran into
Okay.
something I was teaching class just yesterday, the day before, and accidentally came across like, oh, I didn't know I could do this, and it was in the R2. I just started. It was similar to how I worked. I started using the keyboard, and I was typing to, trying to find a quick way to get to a family at a type that I was looking for, and I just did my usual keyboard shortcut. Like if you're in the brain freeze, the properties palette, and if you want to scroll down, I know alphabetically which one I'm going right to, so I just hit the first letter on the keyboard, and normally it just scrolls down to the first family that starts with that letter, and that's it. This time it started searching, slightly different, but it limited my list to just 2 or 3 things instead of having to scroll through the whole thing. And I found that accidentally just the other day.
Yeah.
It's in there, it's in the R2, but yeah, so we're still running across some new things every once in a while.
Tony, you'll have to show us that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will. So I have this set up to send it to the printer, and so I've chosen to combine these views into a single file for this first step here. Now let's find, we'll use raster printing.
And there we go with the normal clicking away. Let it watch it load.
And Marty, yes, Bluebeam or Adobe is fine. We really love Bluebeam around here, so we're kind of big proponents of it, but it'll work with basically any PDF printer that we know of.
It should work with any of the free ones, so Qt or Bullzip or just about any PDF writer that you have out there for Revit. Unfortunately, Revit doesn't come with a default one that I'm aware of, but you can just go and grab one and put that together. Again, our preference, or my preference, is to use Bluebeam, so that's what we're using here today, class.
Yeah, I think the only qualification was that they support hyperlinks. So
Okay.
any of
well,
the
then
PDF
maybe
is,
to get the, yeah, then you probably would have to have Adobe or Bluebeam for that.
And Mariah asks, is there any improvement in the order in which Revit prints, such as does it follow the sheet order, or is it still ABC, etc., and having to reorder? I don't know if any of you know that one yet, but
okay, so here is a PDF file then, the Bluebeam PDF. And then I've got a list of all of them. That's when I first started, I had the table of contents over here if we look at the bookmarks. And so first of all, you can switch just by choosing anything in that list. I can switch between my different views or the sheet that I printed. And then when you're in the sheet, if we look at, make sure I actually chose any of these, you can also, when you do the print, you can select an option to highlight them in blue, so if that makes it easier to see actually which links are live in there. And so now, I don't have that one with me, so let's go back here. And so the section view, all I'm going to do is click on my section marker and it switches me to that section. From the plan view, we can go to, if I switch to my south elevation here, so just by clicking in the PDF now I can switch between. And so this is good for anybody who is just using a viewer, a PDF reader to view your project.
well, I know a couple of our construction customers use Bluebeam out in the field quite exclusively, and they're pretty excited about this capability to look at a model this way without having to necessarily have heavy-duty links back to the model.
And so now what I'm going to do is the other option, create separate files. So I don't have too many selected, so hopefully it's not going to take a long time. But I'm just going to use that same set that I had, set 1, that I saved from the first one. And so I've checked the button to create separate files, and what's going to happen is once I say OK, it's going to give me a warning. You know, this could take a while. And once you have started the print, then it says you cannot cancel it. Now, I think if you just hit escape enough times and cancel, that it finally did cancel, but it is it's a bit stressful for a few minutes if you think you're going to be plotting for the next 2 hours because you sent the whole project. And so they give you the opportunity to cancel it there. And then I need to give it a new name because I didn't like that. And okay. Now it's going to go through the printing again and print in separate views this time. Separate sheets. And so this is going to pop up for each sheet and ask me where to save each individual view or sheet that I have selected. And so as you can see, I mean, this could take a while if you have a complex project, if you decided to send all of your sheets and views over there. I think I only have a couple left.
Kind of on a side note, I think we're going to see some of this impact other pieces of software like Bluebeam and Adobe, that those particular programs, especially when they're writing on top of Revit with their add-ins, that you might be able to pull these links now using directly those pieces of software within Revit. So now that that feature is available in Revit to bring in the hyperlinks, we might see a change within Bluebeam or Adobe taking advantage of this too. So hopefully that's going to come around too. For those of you that like Bluebeam and like using it, I would love to see this impact those pieces of software.
I think it's more than an educated guess.
I want to say, hopefully.
Okay, and so now so I closed most of those. I need to reopen one because this one doesn't have any links in it to my other projects. So let me find that south view again. So here I'm in the south view because I know I have this section, and so I do not have the section currently open, but if I click on that link, the reference in the drawing there, then it switches to section 4, and there it is. Came in sideways.
How cool is that?
So you don't even have to have them open, but you do have to print them at the same time. So this will not open PDFs that were not printed at in the same session of Revit.
That is really cool.
Okay, and then lastly the perspective view. So I'm in a parallel view here. We just switch to a perspective view.
I remember drawing perspectives on those charts many years ago.
I still have some of those.
With the graph paper,
Yeah.
three-point perspectives.
Listen, this just makes me angry.
It's too easy. You can't do it that way.
Well, young kids these days, they don't know how easy they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first thing I'm doing here is actually, I got kind of a crazy perspective view. So what I'm doing is just stretching the window out here. And now the new tool that we have is to reset the view. Except for it's covered up by my thing over here. Come on. All right, so I lost it. Where'd you go? But there is a button to switch between the, there we go. So reset target. So when we choose the perspective view, choose the crop region there, and then go to reset target. So once you've started moving around in here, and so you maybe changed your view a little bit, moved things around, then you can reset the target, and then that way if you have, sometimes you've really distorted your view by stretching it. And the other thing is if you get a little bit off center, then we can, it's not working very well with my exterior perspective here, but and then switching between the view. Now if I right click on the view cube, I can toggle to just a parallel view, and then it can work in the parallel view. And we can also use the new editing features. So if we can use the move, you'll notice that I can still see the alignment, and the move commands are still available. Most of the other modify commands are not. But you're still able to pin and unpin and also to move objects in this view now. And so I can move, I can move this window over here. Maybe Brian really likes this one. So, but it is nice. So you don't have to switch back to an orthographic view.
So does Joe.
To mess things up in your drawing. So right. So, sort of dominating here. So I'm going to, that's what I have for the architectural part. And so we're going to move on to Brian Jude to show you some of these structural enhancements and see if anybody had any questions about anything else.
As we like to refer to him, Brian D. Jude.
Brian D. Jude. Well, I don't know.
AIA. Frame fighter and log home builder.
So, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna switch screens here and so forth. It's a little bit of a challenge at times to run 3 different computers and so forth on a webinar, but we're getting better at it. And Cody's moving the mic without making it sound like we're
Moving the
running
mic.
a bowling alley around here. There we go. So, Mr. Jude.
All righty. All right, folks. So some of the things I'm going to cover in here is a little bit of some of the structural aspects that we have and some other general stuff, wall joints, things of that nature, and some other features I found that were really nice to have. Not a ton of groundbreaking stuff in here, but some really nicer features to have. So one of the things I have in here, I've got some columns inside, and we can see that there's some different offsets we have. So just a little new feature, but one that's nice in here. When I go and select the columns, I now have a change reference. We've got some justifications that if you're not used to, those are in there too. But I've got the change reference angle in here. So this beam right here, what we have is it's able to look at where it normally does. And we've got our offset in there, so I can select the beam. I've got my 1-inch offset to the inside. But you'll see the one on the other side, it's now going to the inside flange. And what I can do is I can just go select this and say change reference. Now pick that inside edge, and now it goes directly inside. So that, for me, was kind of a nice feature to have. I wanted to share with you all. And then I was just messing around with it a little bit more. I wanted to see how this would work on a column that was slanted. So inside here, I've got this column. It's at an angle. So I said, okay, let's see what happens when I do it with the beam like this. And we change reference, and I click in here, and it goes back normal. So it's doing some weird stuff in there. So I'll be playing with that a little bit more, but you can see what it did is it just made that beam. It's actually a really small beam in there, if I can find it. Oh, man, the beam disappeared altogether. It's in there somewhere, so trust me, folks, but I'll hit undo. So we have that. Let's go back to that other view here. Other things you can do is if they have like 3 or 4 beams coming together, you can kind of pick which ones you're using in there. This also comes into play here. I got some precast inside, so I got some precast connections, and we can kind of do the same thing with our adjustments inside here. Now, I can't do this, unfortunately, I forgot about that. Can't do this directly in a section. I was trying to set that up from before with the section. But what I can do in here is I come inside, I select that beam. I now can go in and say change reference, pick this side, and then it drags that whole item in. So there's some play. We've got to play with it a little bit more, but now with that I'll go back to that section view. I can select in here and do my adjustments a little bit more from how it's going in and adjusting onto that support there with that. So here's just some stuff with some precast that I wanted just to show that are out there with a lot of the changes that are going on within Revit. So that's been a great one to have. Now another one that they've been playing with a lot of is rebar, and I guess I could play with it in this one, but I'm going to go back to another view in here, and we know that inserting rebar in the past you've always had to be in a call-out or in a section or cutting through it, or if you're dealing with floors you can put rebar on floors. But now you could go in and put rebar in a lot of 2D views in here. So I have this element right in here, and I'm going to go to a south elevation, and we can see I've got some rebar elements in here. And now what we can do is I can select that element, and I have the rebar, so I can insert rebar inside this element. That's been a great feature for those of you that are doing more difficult work. I've been doing a lot more rebar classes with different people in spillways and a lot of just complicated areas. So I would have loved this tool about 2 months ago. So I think, you know, Autodesk was 2 months short for me, and it would be lovely to have this feature at more of the beginning of the year. But now that we have it, I'm going to go back and kind of, you know, tout this as being a great tool to go in here and kind of work on that coverage and different planes and stuff that we have inside.
Was that about the time you were doing the training for the Bureau of Rec, and they were?
Yeah, the Bureau of Reclamation was doing a lot of work, and we had spillways and just a lot of real complicated forms, and they're like, can we put rebar in this? I'm like, yes. And then how? And we were like, well, we were cutting sections all over the place. It was just, it would have been nice to be able to do it in elevation to get that done, but you got to cut the wall right down the middle, and these were, you know, battered walls, and how do I get it at this weird angle that we're dealing with? So we had to cut a lot of sections and with a lot of reference planes, and I think we would have had this tool been out to be able to add it in 2D views would have been a bit more successful. So I was really, I'm really happy to see this particular tool in there and be able to work with different types of elements. So again, I can go in and put these in different views. We can change the current plane that's in there. So the far coverage, the near coverage, are we parallel to the surface or perpendicular to surface that we're working in there. So we have all that that we're used to seeing in the past. So that's just been a nice thing to have. You have all your shapes, so it makes it really easy to add those in the view. And then we can still sketch and use single bar or maximum, you know, multiple bars within those coverage areas in here. One thing I have noticed though is it's not showing necessarily always showing my coverage regions. So maybe we'll see an adjustment on that, or there's something I'm missing to turn those on, because I don't get to quite see those when I'm working in there. Well, I got some in there, but they were disappearing from before. So it just seems to disappear or something. I've noticed that these dotted lines aren't always showing up in there, but maybe that's just the way I'm working with it. I'm not sure. So we've got the current work plane, nearest coverage, far coverage. Just nice other placement planes in here that we can also work with when we're looking at this. So are we on the inside, towards the outside edges, or wherever we need to be when we're working with that. So that's just been some nice things to have in here. I'm going to go back to a 3D view now, and I'll grab these steel elements in here. And again, we've got the justification tools that we have now within the ribbon, and you're going to see that a lot of these tools might have been available in one place or another, and it's not just for these tools, but a lot of tools were available in other places. And what this enhancement has done as R2 is just relocated those particular buttons or icons that you're looking for and made them more prominent. So I'm going to show a couple more like this, and one of my other favorite features in here has been to do with wall cleanups in here. So I'm going to go over to this elevation again, go back to this first floor, and I'm going to pan on over to this wall section right here. So I have this wall section. Now in the past, anytime you wanted to do this disallowed joint or allow the joint, we had to come in here and right-click on the dot and say allow or disallow. Well, now what they've done is we come over here to your wall cleanups, and if you've never used wall cleanups before, I highly recommend you've got to get these down. You've got to learn them. They're great tools to have, especially if you're doing more complex foundation site work. I find they're really nice things to have, especially tying those site walls into your existing foundations of your house. It's been great for me. But now if I go into the wall joints, I'm going to come down to this joint in here, and I have this feature right inside here. So I no longer have to talk about this hidden button by right-clicking on the dot. I now can come in here and say disallow the joint, click on that. Now they're disallowed, both those joints in that area, and now I can deal with the wall a little bit separately. So it's been great as a tool to teach somebody what's going on. The old way, again, was to go in here, hit escape, and right-click on the dot, and you had to be right on the dot to do it, and say disallow join in there, and then it would turn itself on. But you have to know about those types of things in there, and that's just becomes aggravating to look at that. Okay, so I'm going to hit undo again. Another feature that I like, and it's not a big deal for if you guys have been using the program for a while, but it's one of those that it kind of helps with cleanup with the messes that are going on within our project. And it's one of my more favorite ones, and that's going to be this little guy down here.
That little guy?
That little guy, this little guy, yes. So when I come in, it's reveal constraints. So by clicking on that, what I'm going to get is a temporary view, and inside this temporary view, you can see there's a dimension stringer in here letting me know that this is turned on. Now these are equals constraint. Now it doesn't display the text equal, but at least turns on and say, hey, you have an equals constraint in here that's working in that view, and I can go and track that down. So if you've got weird behavior that's happening within your walls, your joints or something, we can go in here and turn that on. So that's just a newer feature to have, that we can go in and track that down. And the beautiful part, again, is this will show up even in 3D views. Showing and displaying that particular thing is equal to constraint, and that rule set, that constraint is being working within the program.
Brian, before you get too far off that, hopefully you can hear, is disallowed join new feature in architecture part of Revit? That's Mariah's question.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, Mariah's asking, is disallowed join a new feature in architectural part of Revit? And the answer is no. It just was one of those that was, I'll just say, hidden. I don't know what they're saying. You had to come across that knowledge from someone else, or just totally geek out on the software and right-click on everything. So unless you have the time to teach yourself and right-click on everything, it was one of those features that you had to learn from someone else, i.e. come to CAD-1, take a class. Because that was about the only way you're going to learn about it. Or go to AU or something like that. It was one of those that was knowledge passed down, but unless you're digging for that answer, it's one of those things that was hard to come by.
If I remember right, it was only available in a right-click menu, and it was only available in the right-click menu if you right-clicked on the exact correct thing. Is that right?
You have to right-click on the drag wall end joint, and then you say allow join, and the symbol is going to disappear. Now I'm going to do this so it does it on both ends, and that's what the symbol is. But now when I trim these up or put them together, they join. But if I come in, this is the old way, and I right-click on this dot and say disallow join, now they broke up their separate walls. So you had to know, you had to right-click on that dot to make it work. It was just one of those things that you just didn't know. It was almost worth the price of the class, I'll say that. So that's how you would get to know about those types of things on there. So that's just been a nice feature for me to have things in here. Now another one that I'm liking is this select host for tags in here. So I've got this tag on the window, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this tag, and I've got this new feature that says pick new host. So now I can come in here and pick a new host, and I can pick a different window. So I can pick a new host and pick a different window. Now, unfortunately, I can't say go pick a door, because a door is not a window tag. You know, window tag is only going to look for different window tags in here. So another nice little one to have, if you want to point to another object, you can do that within your project or within your tags or whatever you're using in there. Another little one that's just in here, and again, these are all little features, but let's say we're going to go cut a section. I can go to View and Section, and before we had down here Reference Other View, and now it's gone. It's no longer in here. No, that's not the case. Actually, what's happened is they moved it, and they moved it over here in the ribbon. So it's still the same command. They just relocated it. And you're going to see there's even things in schedules and stuff like that where it's relocated, those types of things. So I'll show you a schedule right now that I did a simple one for Windows just to come in here and go down to Schedules. And inside our Windows schedule, we now have a feature that's an insert data row. So when you need to do insert data row, it's no longer a pull down in the list. Before it was a pull down, and then you had to say insert data row. Now it's just available right on the schedule. So they've just been updating some things in there, a lot of little nice things, and I don't think I'm covering them all or by any means, but just some really great things to have in there. Let's see. Looks like we might have a question on here.
Michael's making more of a comment about the you got the mic flying around the room here. Michael's making more of a comment about disallowed join. Even when you clicked on the dot, sometimes it would select the other wall. I usually have to drag the wall away to be able to select the dot. So I think Michael's kind of indicating he's liking the idea that the disallowed join is a little bit more self-evident than before. Brian, do you have anything else you're wanting to go over, or do we pass into Tony now?
Not too much more. I want to see what Tony has. There's other things like thin lines that we could show, and other features that just remain turned on. And I think Tony was going to go over a lot of those types of interfaces that were some people would say buggy, or why doesn't this thing stay where it's supposed to stay? And I think Tony was going to take on more of those types of things. So
There was a couple of those I was going to grab. Should I switch away from the screen?
I'm pretty much wrapping this up in here. I might do. One last thing.
I did.
Don't worry, Tony. We're going to do it on your. Can you
Okay.
do curtain walls on yours?
I don't think I started with a architectural template.
Oh, okay. Well,
I could switch back. It's up to you.
Well, go ahead and switch back because I think that's a pretty important one, and I'll kind of cover the space here. Folks, I want to throw something out there to you. I see many of your names on the attendance list here, and we've got a lot of really great people in our audience on any of our webinars.
Our audiences are the best ever.
They are, and one of the programs that we want to start doing here at CAD-1, and I don't think our techs even know about this yet, but that's not unusual.
You're always the last to know.
We're going to call it our Masters Series, and basically that's a program where we'd like to invite those of you who would like to, because many of you have expertise in your own field surrounding Revit, BIM, maybe Navisworks, maybe civil, structural, whatever it may be, MEP. And what we'd like to do is work with you and provide a little bit of a stipend. You're not going to get rich off of it or make a full-time living, but you know, a little bit of prep time and host some webinars of things you're doing out there, because a lot of our customers are asking to see, you know, what's going on out there. And we think the idea of having a Masters Series for those of you who have really done some cool stuff would be a fun thing to do, starting in maybe December or January, and doing that for maybe a year or so. Hopefully it'll also take some of the webinar pressure that Autodesk puts on us off of our techs, so we can do some other things as well. So if you're interested, please contact me at CAD-1.
Cool, we'll do. You can give out your home phone number, your cell phone?
Yeah, I'll give it my home phone.
Which email, what should they use to contact?
Just stan.hennig, H-E-N-N-I-G-H, at CAD1.com. I'll post it on the chat thing here.
Okay, and I can put it at the end of the slides too.
Sure.
all right. I had just a couple of things that kind of a little bit. They've changed the way pins work and kind of their identification within Revit that we'll have in there. So any type of item that is part of a system that gets pinned, like mullions, panels, or beams in a beam system, you're going to see just a little bit different icon data letting you know that those items are part of a pinned element that's part of a system. So it's just kind of an icon change. I just wanted to kind of show you because you're going to see it at one point
in here. Does this work for any pinned element and anywhere in Revit?
No, it doesn't. It's only if it's part of a system. So when we're going to come in here, if I select like this panel, you're going to see that there's a different type of pin icon on here. So we're going to see that type of symbol, just letting us know that it's part of a pin element within a system. And same with this beam system. You're going to see this different kind of pin icon that's available out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Now, when Brian says part of a system, it means a beam system or a curtain wall system, not any type of MEP system.
Yes, I should clarify that. Yeah, well, I don't deal with those things, no, Tony, so, you know, whatever you guys do.
A ton of stuff is considered
systems.
System,
I can't just throw that word around randomly.
No, I've been people that there aren't systems in architectural.
Well, there are. There's curtain wall systems and beam systems. Yeah.
What systems?
Yeah, see right here, beam system.
Well, and then what's the third tab on the ribbon called? Systems.
That's systems, but we don't include everything that's not a MEP stuff. So we just deal with that over here.
So Revit Autodesk uses the same word to mean two different things.
Oh yeah, view template and project template. That's just
panel schedule.
That's how we do it here. That's
another
but it doesn't cause any confusion at all.
No.
All right. But that's what I had for me. So I'm going to hand it on over to Tony. I didn't see any questions pop up, but maybe Stan, if you saw something in there.
No, we don't have any questions at this point.
No old questions either, I don't think. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and make over. Yep, I'm making Tony presenter, and he wasn't ready for me. Oh, there.
Looks like it's working.
Rick says, okay, Laurel and Hardy, with the unspoken words, knock it off.
No, he was excited that we were actually bringing up old classics.
And we use the word systems.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to cover a couple things on the MEP. Not going to cover everything that's in there, but I'll show you where you can look for additional tools.
That's not that much.
No, there's not that much. Well, I guess maybe what I should say is I'm not going to teach every step. I'm not going to do classes. Just going to point them out. So if it's a tool that's useful for you, because I know there's most of the stuff is for electrical, but if you don't do electrical, you know, they probably
Just take a nap.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
And there's
And Patrick, you have your not paying attention symbol on your name, so now it's time for you to pay attention.
Wake up, Mr. Olson.
I think I've met that guy. Now I lost my train of thought. Okay, so there's under MEP there's a number of things for electrical, specifically working for electrical panels and circuiting, as well as there's a little bit with the ASHRAE table. And I think some of the best stuff might even be the platform enhancements. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was flipping too quickly. So in MEP, the main things, there's electrical circuiting enhancement. There's 3 or 4 things related to that. There is some little bit to the ASHRAE table enhancements. For plumbing, you're going to have to revert to the platform enhancements. I think Brian's covered some of those. Barbara's covered some of those. There's a lot of good stuff in the platform enhancements. I think it's been said, nothing grand and earth-shattering, nothing that you just couldn't ever do before, but a lot of things have been improved.
I don't know, origin to origin, I don't think I could do without that now.
I would, though, man, if it went the other way, if that went backwards, if it was origin to origin as the default and went the other way, that, yeah.
People would get shot, I feel.
I know I may have described that as being the second worst default setting ever, is not allowing us to origin to origin. So there's 2 things now, but I'll get to that in a minute.
But what's the first worst thing?
Well, I don't want to complain about the software.
Oh, okay.
But, and that's been improved, but it hasn't been fixed. Anyway, oh well, no, there's one that bugs me more. So where was I? Circuits, sequence for power circuits. Oh, what's wrong? Wait, Revit. Let me check this out. Okay, so if you're circuiting up a circuit, this one already has a lot of circuits in there. If I go to the systems browser, you can find that because we use systems in Revit MEP and the MEP version of Revit.
MEP versus Revit?
MEP version of Revit.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
maybe I should slow down as I'm talking. And I keep losing my train of thought. Okay, so as you add circuits, as you put circuits in there, they connect to the panel. Let me find a panel schedule. You do I'll just click. There was one that I was going to open. Now I don't see it. There we go. PPTB. There we go. Nope, that's not the one I was looking for. Anyway, as you add them to this, as you circuit things up, every time you create a circuit, it just goes to the next one available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It just grabs the next circuit. But you might not want it to be that way. In fact, it's quite common to want the circuits to connect in order, either by phase or by odd numbers, even numbers, so it goes on the left side of the panel so that maybe it's in a logical order when the building owner goes to use the panel, once the building's been put in use. If I go to, okay, I can't do it there. Sorry, I typed the keyboard shortcut, which is MS, goes to mechanical settings, and under, ES is electrical settings. I have under general, there's a new option in here. Under general, I have circuit sequence with 3 different options. I can do numerical, which is what it always was before. It just was. There was no other choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have 3 options, numerical, by phase, or down the left side, odd numbers, and then all the even numbers, which from the people that I've talked to is probably the most common one. It's not universal by any means. You can do it however you want, and once it's in there, you can move things around. So I'll just point this out. I can circuit. I have a choice now of how Revit will automatically circuit things. Previously, it just did it how it did it, but now at least I have this option. I'll go ahead and circuit this. I'm not going to go through and create circuits. There's already plenty of those. But I will look at this circuit panel because I have another, whoops, the most recently used panel. As I'm connecting up to the circuits, I can it remembers which one I use most, which one I use most recently. That can be very useful, as well as choosing it from the drop-down. So I should be back on a floor plan. As well as, let me look and see. Okay, no, I was looking for something else. It's not here. So when I'm adding a panel, when I'm adding a circuit, let's say this room has not been circuited yet, unless I forgot to hit undo. I was playing around with it earlier. So do I have a circuit here? No, no circuit. So let's just grab a couple of electrical circuits. I will create a power circuit. I don't know if you can see the circle on the screen. Excellent. I can choose the panel. I can choose, this just shows me compatible panels. Oh, but look at that. Shoot, when I do the red lines, it disappears. Up at the top, so I can't point at the red line on it, there's a tool called search. See, exactly. Yeah, some of the things disappear. I can just start typing if I know it's going to be a transformer or a power panel or an emergency panel. Do I have an EP? I do have an EP. There's a lot of circuits in this one, or a lot of panels. If I know it's going to be an emergency panel or a powering panel, I can just start typing the name, which is great for electrical if you're adding up circuits. But let's say you're not electrical. Let's say you're mechanical or plumbing or architectural or structural. Let's say I'm going to add. In fact, let me go right to this. I'm going to go to the architectural tab of the Revit. Believe it or not. And I'm going to add a component. I'm going to place a component, and now find out if it's in this file. Because if I look in my type selector, my properties palette, there's a lot of components that I could add. I know, you know what, I'm just going to add a desk. So I start typing D-E-S-K. Oh, and you know what? There's no desk in here. But now I don't have to search all the way through here. You know any components that might be in here? I thought I did have it. Well, this is, yeah, it
looks like conduits in there.
Yeah, so if you instead of searching through the whole entire list, if I know what I'm searching for, if I know it's going to be a panel, I'm looking for something generic. There we go, a pendant light. And it's noticed that it starts with the word M. For whatever reason, it could be metric, could be the company name, could be its, whatever.
It's a mechanical pendant.
It's a mechanical light.
No, I don't know.
So I'm instilling the command for adding a component, and I know it's going to be a pendant light. Even though it doesn't start with the word P, it starts with the letter P. It starts with, look, and you have a pendant sprinkler too. Oh, there we go. That's what I should have gone through.
There you go.
Yeah, shoot, when I do the red lines, it disappears. So just typing, or maybe L-I-G-H-T, I'll type in light. It limits the list to any family that has the word light in it. So I don't have to, yeah. Actually ran across that accidentally because I was in the habit of just typing, if you type the first letter normally, in any previous version of Revit, if I type M or L or D is what I was searching for, desk, it went down to that first item that started with a D for desk or whatever I typed on the keyboard. But that was really it. So it was helpful, but this is so much more useful. And this is useful for anybody, not just specifically MEP. Getting back to MEP for mechanical, let me close out of this command. Let's say, do I have, okay, I'll just point this one out. There's subtle improvements, and it depends on the fitting. So I've selected a duct fitting, and there's been subtle improvements to the ASHRAE table. Just a little bit more that you can do with that. You can identify, the table, the dialog box is a little bit different. It can be helpful when if you're working with the coefficients from the ASHRAE table for the loss method for duct fittings. So it's kind of specific, but for people that are working with that, if you need that, this is an improvement. This is going to work better and give you a little more options. You can get a little more precise, and you can override, make it work just a little more to your liking. Stan, did you have?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So there's some electrical, there's some circuiting enhancements, there's an ASHRAE table. There are some other improvements in the properties palette, something that kind of just bugged me all the time. I'll show you that, and then we'll take a quick look at the family editor. Where was it? Let me go back to my busy floor plan. So let's say I don't think I have anything non-electrical in this view, but I'll just go with that. Oh, there we go.
There's plumbing.
There's plumbing. So I grabbed this water closet. I've selected it. And you know what? I want to compare two different water closets. And so I look at the properties, I look at the schedule level, the mark, the phasing, whatever it is. Say it's something down toward the bottom of the properties palette. Well, first of all, let me scroll through the properties palette. I move my mouse away. Did you notice the properties palette did not jump back up to the top? It did not scroll up. It doesn't even jump back up to the top when you're in the palette. I don't know if that's happened to anybody else, where I scroll up or down and then it As soon as I let go of the mouse, it jumps back to the top. It stopped doing that. And not only that, when I move my mouse out, it still stays where it's at. I can go to another view. So if I'm comparing two views, maybe I'm looking at a phase filter. Look at the phase filter in the properties, which happens to be at the bottom of the properties palette. I'll hit Control-Tab on my keyboard. If you're not already using that, experiment with that. Have more than one view open. Hold down Control. Every time you press Tab, it cycles through the views that are available. I have two open. So I can look at this view, scroll down, look at the phase filter, and I Control-Tab to the other view, scroll down, look at the phase filter. Now watch what happens. Oh, great. Now that there's an audience, it's not working. I guess because of two different files. Let me open up another view, second floor. Okay, so I'm in the second floor plan. Come on, zooming out, waiting on the computer. Say if I scroll down to the properties, it should stay there. The properties palette. Sorry, waiting on the computer. I always feel like humming the theme to Jeopardy when it's, there we go. That's better, because you don't want me to hum anything. So I'll scroll down to the bottom of the properties palette. Let me switch him up here to another view. So I'm at the top, I'm switching my windows to the other view in the same project, and there it is. It stayed at the bottom. The scroll wheel in the palette, the scrolling in the palette did not zoom back up. So I can go back and forth, comparing the properties of two views, comparing the properties of two elements, whatever it is, the properties palette stops scrolling. It seems minor, but if you're spending all day in Revit or hours in a day, every little thing can add up to a few seconds here, adds up to a few minutes here, adds up to a few hours in the project, plus it's just less annoying. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to go to the other family thing. So let's see. Oh, sorry. Too many buttons on the screen.
Tony, Patrick is paying revenge on us for goosing him there, and he's asking, will we be covering anything on the schedule changes?
Well, actually, Patrick, if you were paying attention, I did cover one change earlier that was happening with the schedules in general, the general schedules on there, and that was having to do with so you can remember, Matt. He says, are you releasing a list of the new features, or just so we can remember all of them?
I'll show that.
Okay. So Tony's going to show that. But yeah, about the only thing that was new on the general schedules was the relocation of buttons. But there was some other things that were pretty big in schedules for 2015 release that made some big differences. I didn't see anything specific other than one little thing for the general schedules, but maybe Tony's got some other stuff that's specific more for MEP. He's shaking his head no.
Nah, if there is anything new from the schedules that help MEP, I didn't run across it yet.
I mean, there's stuff on like asteroid table information, stuff like that, but
yeah.
It wasn't anything that was listed. That wasn't to say there isn't big new features. They just came out in 2015, such as adding images, being able to do color fill areas, things like that. I will tell you that, let's just say you could probably bet that there's going to be a lot more other enhancements in schedules in the next version of Revit, but we can't necessarily get into what would be released on that.
And I know I'm hoping for some improvement, I'm hoping for something, I can't really say a whole lot, very significant on the mechanical and plumbing side that kind of opens it up a little more to new firms, maybe even new disciplines. I don't know. Stan's not cringing, so I haven't said too much yet.
You guys see the technical stuff before we do, so.
So a couple last things. Covered properties palette, family editor, and this is useful for anybody. Whoops. Let me switch back to Revit. Oops, the big blue R. There we go. So let's say, well, let's go back to that water closet. Let me do a sink. It's a little nicer. I'll do a family editor. I'm going to edit this sink. So I selected it, open the family editor. Up at the top, whoops. Once it's open up at the top of the ribbon, there is a new button way off to the right. So let's say I make some edit. I do a property. I'll just do something quickly. I'll edit down to the identity data, model, whatever. I just typed in something random. That didn't even say model. So I made a change. So what happens? You just made a quick change to the family. What do you do with that? You load it back into the project. Well, that was the only thing I changed. So if I load into the project, what do you do next? You have to switch back, if Control-Tab if you use that, back to the family, and then save it, and then close it, and then you're back in your project so you continue working there. So you made one little change. It was like 5 steps just to close out of the editor.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe I ever put up with that. There's a new button, load in the project, and close the file, because half the time that's what you're going to do anyway. So let's see, I made a change. I'm going to load this number per project. So one button. I need to tell it which one. Let's go with that one. Hit OK, and then it says, oh, well, I'm going to close this. So before we're going to close out of this completely. You said you're done. You want to save changes? Yes or no? I'm going to hit no in this case. And now I'm done. It's back. It's loaded into the project. It's a change is taking effect. My file's been saved. It's been updated, and it's been closed. So that's minor, but I think that's great. It made 7 clicks down to 2 or whatever. I haven't counted it, but it just I didn't realize it was tedious until this came out. And
well, Rick says he's already a big fan of the load and close button, so that's great.
And let's see. I think one last thing for me. Oh, I didn't. Well, I think I've had on. There we go. You may have noticed this when I had the slide up there earlier. This, the best change ever. Sorry, am I done with the red lines? Origin to origin. So if you've ever linked in a file into Revit, please tell me you've always used origin to origin. So if I have in the insert menu, or shared positioning. That's right. That's what I tell people. If I'm going to link in, say if I'm linking this architectural file. Oh my goodness, look at that. At the bottom, the positioning is automatically going origin to origin. And tagging on what Brian said, I tell people shared coordinates is probably the best option, but origin to origin is going to be your most common option. If the team is not using shared coordinates, then don't use shared coordinates. Use origin to origin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything to add? So I can link this in. I've already got a building, so this would just come in funny. But what the heck, I'll do it anyway. And if you choose something different, maybe you're working on a project. Maybe you've got a project that's going to go on for 2 years. We're using shared coordinates because it's a huge campus. It's a big project. There's 10 or 12, 13 buildings. Revit remembers. In fact, I could do actually hit undo just so you know what I'm doing. I'm going to link in this file. This time I'll choose shared coordinates. Okay, choose shared coordinates. I'll hit open and I'll give it just a moment. So you're working on a huge project. So every time, oh, sorry, I'm not using shared coordinates, so that's going to be a bad demonstration. The bottom line is it remembers. Oh, good. It remembered, even though it didn't work, even though this project doesn't have shared coordinates, it remembered my last choice was shared coordinates. So I might be working for a year on a project with shared coordinates. It will remember that. It doesn't just default to origin every time. It defaults to origin the first time, and then remembers whatever you typed in. Let's see. I think that's. Sorry.
All right, we've got a couple questions here. Tony, let's. David asks, is in the same vein any note for default roof slope changing from 912? David's kind of tired of the 912 pitch here. You are.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't seen anything on that.
But yeah.
Well, David, I guess that one will be a while.
Yeah, it would be a nice feature to have that in there, to leave it as the default, the last one you did on there when using the tool.
I'll tell you what, Marta, we'll get that slide with the list of new features and post it out there on the website. Or Jude, you said on the website. Are we going to post that on the website or in an email? Or?
We could. I'll get it posted somehow. I'm not sure if it'll be website or email, but
I was just going to pull up the official website, the Autodesk website.
Oh, there you go. Then it's posted on their website. That would work.
I forgot to do that.
I have two other things. I'm kind of just doing a shameless plug for a webinar I'm going to do in the future. But one of the new things that came out, it wasn't necessarily part of the R2 release, but they did make it publicized to sound like it was part of the R2 release, and that was a new tab that you might see at the top of mine called Site Designer up there. Now, Site Designer, yes, some of you might see that looks familiar to something else you might have. When I click on that, you're going to see that looks really familiar to some other site tools that you might have already had. So this was SiteWorks, was Eagle Point software that was there before. I'm actually going to do a webinar, and I'm going to try to cover some of these things during that webinar. I've got a topo webinar coming out in 2 weeks, I believe. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be covering the topo tools. I'll be talking about different things to do with topography, and I'll be doing an overview of the site designer and what these tools are that are now part of Revit. Now this is part of an enhancement. You have to go back out and download this on your Exchange website, so you have to come up over there to the Exchange, download the site designer, and put it out there. Now they haven't really improved upon it yet, but I think they will in the future. So any of those out there, and I know we've got 1 or 2 people out there that have used SiteWorks in the past that are using it. It's now part of Revit. Yay, finally site stuff. Yes, unfortunately, yay, finally site stuff, and it's a little clunky. So we're going to get to that a little bit and get it out there. So I'll be covering site topo stuff, looking at these types of things on there. Not going to show you that today. One little fun feature I want to show you, I call this one of the features that we can do in for April 1st. It's an April 1st feature. I have no idea why you do this otherwise, but you can go down.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I love this. I love this.
It.
Now your background, you can't invert it, but what you can do, you can come over here and you all going to love this. Look at that. Look at that. Now you can have any background color you want. So for those of you that like working on the green screen or you really want a pink background, there you go. I go, wow, there's all these things. People are loving this feature. I'm seeing all the comments come flying in. Everybody loves this.
Or really, I think this feature is best for coworkers who did not watch this webinar.
Yes, this would be awesome. You go in and make a pink background. So if they weren't paying attention, you know, while they go to the restroom, go in, flip this over on the screen, and you can play with that. Just find the most annoying color you can, and tell them I had you do that with all my love. Okay, so there you go.
Or when if you could make it just a really light gray, and then they start wondering if their eyesight's going bad.
Yeah.
Or my monitor's bad. I need a new computer.
Yeah, pink background. That's for you, Patrick. I figured that was gonna go well with it. So, with that, I am. Yeah.
Let's some funny comments. Sarah asks, is the site designer an add-in or will it work with Revit LT? You know on the Revit
No, I believe it will not work with Revit LT. I have to go test that out, but any add-ons do not work with LT version. I do not believe this is an exception to that rule. I think this will not be a feature out there. Probably a really strong, good reason to go to Revit. Now, hopefully they improve these tools a little bit. You're going to find there's going to be a little bit of art more than science behind some of these tools. So we're going to get in there and look at that. So we'll look at that in a couple weeks.
We will, and I think that it holds true, Sarah, with the with the way that Autodesk has treated LT in the past, and that's it's a very competent tool, but it is a lightweight tool, and they really don't open the doors quite as widely to add-ons and customization features and so forth. We'll see in the future, though. I think the most important thing to learn from this is that we're kind of looking at the future here of how Autodesk will release new features, as we said earlier in the webcast. So you'll start seeing feature releases coming out periodically, and you can decide what you want to do with them or not. Another one, and it's kind of hard to demonstrate because it just looks like using Revit, but another new feature in here is the Revit Remote tool, which allows you to work on other platforms.
Yeah, other devices, platforms.
Like iPad or something like that. And
the Autodesk Remote.
It's the Autodesk Remote.
Okay.
It's what Sundial was before, but now Sundial has been moved into the R2 release, allowing you, using the remote features, to work on, say, an iPad or even your phone in some cases, an iPhone, which is pretty spectacular, really. So guys and Barbara, do you have anything else you want to show here today?
What I was going to point out, the question came up, was where do we find these new features? So I put a couple links on here, but you don't even need the links. If you're in, while you're in Revit, let me close out of this, sorry. Remember the F1 key that's right next to escape? So when you slap escape, it accidentally hits it. I'm going to press F1. It brings up the help menu. It goes right to the help, and actually I guess it already remembered my setting. You can find a What's New button, expand that, and you get What's New in Revit you get a couple options. What's new in Revit 2015, as well as R2. That's where the list is at. That's where the official list is at.
And actually, that's a great place for Marta to find that list that she was hoping
Exactly.
we'd post for her.
Oh, and all I was going to do is copy and paste that and send it as an email.
Stan's email at the bottom, so if you're interested in, Stan, you called it the mastering?
Master Series.
Master Series. Any last questions?
Questions for the R2 unit.
Yes, for the Revit R2. While you're typing in the questions, just additional things that we have at CAD-1, and Stan, feel free to chime in at any time.
Dynamo, did you want to
I did, yes, so they are doing the Dynamo in there. Sorry, didn't mean to actually skip over it. We didn't have much prepared, but yeah, they're working with Dynamo directly in Revit. For those of you that don't know what Dynamo is, it's visual programming, so we can go in and start creating programs for Revit to change different stuff. And I think we're going to see that as actually a webinar, so I'll probably be putting that out in the beginning of next year as a Dynamo webinar, maybe the end of this year. It just depends on how schedules work out. We kind of plan our webinars for the whole year, and I've got 2 this month because I've canceled a bunch of mine and a bunch have moved around. So look forward to that. We will be doing a Dynamo stuff in there. I'm sorry we didn't mention it, but yes, it is part of the webinar. It's part of the interface now that you'll be able to go in and work with that. And also Salon integration and working with that. So all the energy analysis, there have been enhancements in that with the R2 version also. So, you know, I think we maybe skipped over those, but it wasn't like we didn't intend to. They are on there. It's just there's not a lot of stuff that we wanted to get into in this amount of time. So we don't want to go all over the place. We just hit some small things for you that fit for the general audience. But we'll look forward to Dynamo, look for more of the Salon and energy-based analysis and all the energy stuff.
And speaking of webinars, we have one coming up, and I couldn't tell you the date without cheating, without looking. If it's kind of focused on companies making the move from AutoCAD to Revit or from CAD to BIM. So if you have any consultants, if you know anybody, or you know if you know anybody that might be in that audience, and there's going to be a little more to it than that, but it's a lot of the focus is moving towards BIM, moving towards Revit. Feel free to pass that on. We have
Discover how your BIM pilot project is successful using Autodesk Building Design Suite.
Yeah, how did you get to that, Brian?
Oh, I got to that on our website. So that's www.cashdad.com/webinars, and on there that will be available on October 14th. And then the topo one will be October 23rd, as I'm also doing a Enhance Your Details on October 16th. So you're going to see quite a few different webinars coming out. Tony's got a couple in there that we're looking at, and Barbara too.
So yeah, a few of the websites webinars were on there. There's other ones. Any last questions? Or Stan, did you have anything to add?
We've got. I think we've done enough damage with our kind of half-organized webinar today. But anyway, hope everybody got something out of it, and we will be enhancing much more in the next few weeks as we actually get the chance to really learn more about these new features and products. So thank you for your time today, and we always enjoy doing these for you. Bye now.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.